May it please the court, Your Honor. I, Cecilia Perez, and my partner, Brisa Rodriguez, will represent Abigail Fisher in this courtroom today. At this point, I will speak for 10 minutes on the first point of error. My partner will speak for 10 minutes on the second point of error. We pray that you reaffirm the resolution resolved as race-conscious affirmative action consistent with the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution. Abigail Fisher should have been benefited from race-conscious affirmative action consistent with the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Abigail Fisher is a Caucasian and a 2008 graduate of Stephen F. Austin High School in Sugar Land, Texas. Abigail Fisher applied to the University of Texas during her senior year. Fisher was in the top 12% and had a 3.59 GPA on a 4.0 scale. Plus, she had a 1,180 score on her SAT. UT had adopted Texas HB 588 that allowed state universities to admit the top 10% of each high school graduating class automatically. 81% of the 2008 freshman class at UT entered under this top 10 rule. Whereas being a Caucasian in Texas makes Abigail a minority, then she would have had a special treatment under a race-conscious affirmative action program.
Counselor,
that was consistent.
How should this court evaluate race-conscious university admissions program?
I would like first to apply Barron versus Baltimore is a landmark United States Supreme Court case in which helped define the concept of federalism in the United States in U.S. constitutional law. The court established a precedent that the United States Bill of Rights could not be applied to state governments. Later, it was established that a 14th Amendment and due process rights did apply, and states would have to obey the law and the Constitution. This overturn of Barron allowed for cases such as Bake to come about. And in the Regents of University of California versus Bake in 1978, in Bake, the Supreme Court addressed affirmative action in university admissions for the first time. The 5-4 majority held that UC Davis Medical School violated the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution by creating an application process where 416 out of 100 spots for incoming students were reserved for minority candidates.
Counselor, are you making the assertion that this was a quota system?
Yes.
Okay, and in Abigail Fisher case, is this a quota system?
No.
Okay. Continue, please.
Steve Murdoch, founding director of Rice University's Hobby Center for the Study of Texas and the state's former demographer, has projected that by the year 2040, Hispanics might make up more than 50% of the population in Texas as the Anglo population declines to 26%. According to the U.S. Census 2014 estimate of the Texas population, 38.6% of the population in general are Hispanic and 43.5% of the population is white or Caucasian. However,
has the University of Texas shown the use of race as admissions plus factor meets strict scrutiny test?
Well, this argument is really interesting. The University of Texas, if they are seeking diversity, should actually use the demographic model of high school graduates 2016. If doing this at less than 30% of the state's total number of graduates for 2016, a white student is a minority in the state of Texas, and this would pass a strict scrutiny.
Okay, so in other words, it's your assertion in the courtroom today that strict scrutiny tests be applied, that they would include Abigail Fisher as a minority student, correct?
Correct.
Continue, please.
As I was saying, however, if you look at the school population in the state of Texas, this trend is entirely different. There's the tidal wave coming, said Marco Portales, a Texas A&M University professor who studies education trends. The number of Hispanic students in public schools has mushroomed while the number of white students has decreased. Today, close to 50% of Texas public school students are Hispanic, and studies indicate that the number will rise dramatically. Hispanics are also disproportionately young, 1 out of 3 under the age of 18 compared to 1 out of 5 for whites. In recent years, the school districts have seen that the percentage of Hispanic students increase often are far removed from the Texas-Mexico border. Over the past 15 years, the 5 of the top 10 school districts with the highest percentage increase in the number of Hispanic students were around the largest urban areas, including Dallas and Houston. Throughout the state, the number of mostly Hispanic public school continues to rise. About 23% of Texas schools have a Hispanic student population of at least 80%. 15 years ago, it was 16%. Over those years, the Dallas Independent School district saw a 6% decrease in the white student population and a 23% increase in the Hispanic population. Hispanics are now almost 70% of DISD's enrollment. The Irving Independent School District saw a 35% increase of Hispanics in the same period and a 31% decline in its white student
Counselor,
population.
does the language of the 14th Amendment support the notion of race-based affirmative action? Why or why not?
The concept of the 14th Amendment is richly full of all certain of language in which people are guaranteed rights, and if these rights are not given, there are legal resources for people to obtain their legal guaranteed rights. One of these provisions is affirmative action. Affirmative action helps elevate problems in present, and therefore you should not apply past demographics to create future problems.
Okay, so it's your assertion then in front of the court today that by not allowing Abigail Fisher her due process, they were denying her rights, and that this would be changed with having her under affirmative action, correct?
Correct. This goes along with the trend of high school graduates from Texas high schools. According to Changing Texas 2014, the population of young children under the age of 18 in Texas in 2000 was 2.5 white, non-Hispanic, and 2.38 million Hispanic, or 42.6% of this age group were white and 40.5% were Hispanic. Then in 2010, it was 3.3 million that were Hispanic and 2.3 million who were white. And this translates to 48% of the age group being Hispanic and only 33.8% of the age group being white. Clearly, if program wanted to raise conscious affirmative action consistent with the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution, the only way they could do now would be through the use of new demographics. We cannot, nor should we not, deal with the statistics of the past because they do not reflect our current situation. In fact, if we do, all we do is continue the miscarriage of justice that reflected the problem in the first place. The problem was that minority students in the state of Texas were not getting benefits of college enrollment. If we agree with the premise of race-conscious affirmative action programs, we must have this program tailored to the needs of people it is to serve. It is just that simple. Affirmative action was meant to help the minority student, and we should do exactly that if you support this program. In Changing Texas 2014 also pointed out the population of students age group in the Houston area, the area in which Abigail was from, 86.5% of the growth came in the Hispanic population. In 2000, there were 2.3 white children and 1.3 million Hispanic children. Then by 2010, there were still about 2.3 million white children, but the Hispanic population had grown to almost 2.2 million. Clearly, the population of Texas schools has changed. According to the Texas Education Agency, Texas Public School Statistics Pocket Edition 1994 to 1995 and 2004 to 2006, graduates of high school in the state of Texas in 1994, 56% were white, 29% were Hispanic, and 12% black. In 2004, it was 48% white, 35% Hispanic, and 13% black. In 2014, it was 37% white, 44% Hispanic, and 12% black. Now, these statistics point out the rapidly changing demographics of the student population here in Texas. Now, the heart of our opponent's argument is also the proof of our argument. If you agree that discrimination can and does occur, and if you agree that this discrimination can be based on race, then you must also believe that no matter what race you are, if you are a minority, you should be able to qualify for affirmative action. It works very simple. If you have a minority group of people, and if the group of people need affirmative action, and this need is based on a person belonging to a minority, then the 14th Amendment could be applied to ensure that all people who are in the minority are afforded the same treatment. To discriminate against Abigail Fisher simply because she was white is against the Texas law. The law required that minorities be given race-conscious affirmative action. Ms. Fisher is a minority in the state of Texas, white students graduating from high school. Because of such, she should have been given the same points as other minority students. Minority in this case deals with the term in relation to the general population.
Counselor, just to make sure you get some clear, how can you justify awarding Abigail Fisher race-conscious admission?
Can you elaborate on the question?
Yeah, in your summary there, you were saying that she is in the minority. I'm just asking to make sure clarification. How can you justify awarding her a race-conscious admission? Because in the past, people of her race could not get this in affirmative action.
Well, she's basically just being discriminated because she is a minority, to clarify that, since she is white and most of the population is being made up by Hispanics.
Continue, please.
Affirmative action is an important tool to provide qualified individuals with equal access to educational and professional opportunities they otherwise may have been denied despite their strong qualifications. These policies make certain for all Americans are considered fairly and equally for jobs and educational opportunities. I will. We pray that you affirm the resolution resolved that Abigail Fisher should have been benefited from race-conscious affirmative action consistent with the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Thank you, and my partner will be addressing the second point of error.
May it please the court, Your Honor, please cross-apply all of my partner's arguments. Iris Rodriguez will deliver the remainder of her arguments today. I'm here to address the issue whether race-conscious affirmative action is consistent with the 14th Amendment and the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution. Your Honor, we resoundly and firmly disagree with the lower court ruling and respectfully request that you affirm our resolution. Now, Your Honor, times have changed. We need to accept these changes. As we are right now, less than 1 in 3 high school graduates in the state of Texas is white, and clearly this is a minority. We need to accept this. In this very case, our client, Abigail Fisher, is a member of the minority. Not only was she discriminated against in the admission process, but by not recognizing this fact, we have denied a right and opportunity to many more students all across the state of Texas. If we have affirmative action, we must support by giving it to minorities. You cannot argue that giving affirmative action to a majority of students is anything more than mere discrimination and illegal under the 14th Amendment. When the University of Michigan Law School denied admission to the petition regretter, a white Michigan resident with a 3.8 GPA and a 161 LSAT score, she filed this suit alleging that respondents had discriminated against her on the basis of race in violation of the 14th Amendment, Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. That she was rejected because the law school uses race as a predominant factor, giving applicants belonging to certain minority groups a significantly greater chance of admission than the students with similar credentials from a disfavored racial group, and that respondents had no compelling interest to justify that use of race. Please cross-apply that both Grutter and Fisher were minority in respect to women as well as both were white. The major difference here is that the drawing pool was that the significant aspect of the case said that in Grutter, the majority of applicants for the law school positions were white students, and the majority of students who were graduating from college from Michigan were white. In the Abigail Fisher case, this is not the case. In 2016, the year that Fisher's case is being argued again, the number of white students who were graduating from Texas high schools will be less than 30%. Clearly, the white population is the minority in the pool of diversity of students to attend.
Okay, Counselor, considering there's a rich history of legislation after the Reconstruction era, could we go through a couple of these and see how they apply? The Act of March the 3rd, 1865, how would that apply to your particular case here?
Well, you see, Your Honor, in 1865, my bad. There was a debate concerning the assistance for newly freed slaves. Representative Wilson argued that assistance was needed to the counter-discriminatory legislation in the southern states. Now, Mr. Cohen, a Republican senator from Pennsylvania, took issue with this assertion. He argued that the Constitution of the United States provides the rights of that took issue with the assertion. Now, he noted that a remedy against discriminatory legislation already exists in the Fifth Amendment. He concluded that the peace and the Constitution should already safeguard the rights of all American citizens. Legislation allowing for special privilege and remedy should not be allowed to the newly freed slaves. Now, for more information on Cohen, it would just sum up to supporting equal rights but not race-conscious affirmative action.
Okay, now the Act of July 16th, 1866, how would that apply?
Well, as I said, there was a debate for newly freed slaves, and they were just saying that they were there to support the fact that they were supporting equal rights, but they weren't accepting the race-conscious affirmative action, Your Honor. Okay,
and one of the things that was concerning about this is that in the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, when African Americans were given certain rights, or male African Americans were given certain rights, they needed to start a legislation, and they started a thing called the Freedmen's Bureau. Could you explain to us a little bit what the Freedmen's Bureau was?
Well, the Freedmen's Bureau, Your Honor, was started by President Lincoln during the post-Civil War, and it was supposed to support affirmative action extended to modern-day program. Now, the Freedmen's Bureau provided to help the freed blacks. It was a form of affirmative action. It was temporary in nature and relied a great deal on taking from one group in a rebellious area and giving to another. This idea of taking from one group to give to another without benefit of the law has argued to be discriminatory and was eventually totally dismissed.
Okay, now according to Friedmansboro, which goes along with the Gettysburg Address, excuse me, which goes along with the Emancipation Proclamation. Now, in both cases, it was interesting to note that Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves in the rebellious areas, but not necessarily freed the slaves in the North. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, and one of the problems was the people to understand the ability of taking property away without benefit of the law. Correct?
Correct.
In your particular case here, are we taking any property rights away from anyone?
Not property rights, Your Honor.
Okay, it was Abigail Fisher denied. If we allow Abigail Fisher to come to school, does that deny anyone else to come to school?
No.
Okay, may continue.
Now, diversity of students to attend is clear here that there is discrimination. However, there's a subtle difference here. The University of Texas is advocating a discriminatory process that denied qualified students admission because of their race. This is legal. Now, Ms. Fisher's case should prove to all people who at this point in time, affirmative action should reflect the realities of our present society, not the realities of an institution to preserve the past.
Counselor, are you saying that race-conscious affirmative action depends on majority and minority?
Yes, Your Honor.
And this majority and minority has changed population over a period of time?
Yes, Your Honor.
And this change is reflected in the statistics that you and your partner have been quoting, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
And Abigail Fisher now is a representative of a vast minority of students, of people that go into college that are graduating from Texas high schools, correct?
Right, Your Honor.
May continue.
Now, if we do the latter, we will be discriminating, and this is legal. We pray that you vote against the lower court ruling and uphold the rights of Abigail Fisher, who has done nothing but fought of the rights of the students across this great state and nation to stand up and say no to discrimination. Discrimination by poor schools, discrimination by race, and discrimination by failure of our institutions of higher learning to be transparent and upfront with parents, students, and taxpayers. The University of Texas clearly should have admitted Abigail Fisher in 2008. Her graduation from another university in 2012 proved this. The University of Texas in 2009 lobbied and changed the top 10% rule because they thought that it limited their ability to attract good candidates. These are not our words, these are their words, and you know that we agree with them. After weighing these facts, the only conclusion that can be to both to end discrimination right here and right now.
Counselor, your impassioned plea to end discrimination, can this be possible simply by allowing one student the ability to go to college?
Well, you see, Your Honor, in this case, it is. Why? Because this would be a landmark case. Abigail Fisher is a minority. Take a look at the lower court ruling. They have been denying her rights, and constantly she has been discriminated against. But we need to take a look at the demographics today, and we need to understand that times have changed. Right now, the minorities are the majority. And in this case, Abigail Fisher, who you would think that she would be the majority, is actually the minority.
Okay, in the Bakke case, Bakke versus the Regents of California, there was he sued, and he was actually ended up being too old to get into medical school, but he won his case, correct?
Correct.
In Abigail Fisher's case, she has graduated from college, so she's not reapplying for undergraduate, but she wants to win her case because why?
Well, because she was discriminated.
Okay, and then this discrimination will help out who?
Well, future cases just that fall under the same category as Fisher's.
And conceivably, as the populations change, there has to be a radical change in the way the court views strict scrutiny on race-conscious university admissions, correct?
Yes, Your Honor. Is that all?
We affirm.
We affirm the resolution.